Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. Child development and technology expert Jean Rogers brings sanity, humor, and calmness to the sometimes not so calm conversations surrounding parenting and technology. As the director of the Children's Screen Time Action Network, Jean helps schools, corporations, communities, and families achieve balance with technology. I'm lucky enough to get a chance to chat with her today, and I cannot wait to introduce you to Jean Rogers. Thank you for being on the Healthy Screen Habits podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Hillary.
So, Jean, you have been and kind of continue to be this like guiding light for parents and educators and professionals seeking tools, research, and wisdom around the impact of screens in our kids. Could you share a little bit about what brought you to recognize that media was targeting children? And I just kind of like want to know what made you step into this arena?
Oh, thank you. I love sort of sharing this journey because it's one that I think a lot of parents can identify with. So my early career was in advertising, actually, on the dark side. I was a copywriter. I did a lot of other writing, speech writing, some journalism, but my main bread and butter work was advertising. And then as I had my own children, I have three, and then I have two wonderful stepchildren. So I have five children. As I started having my own children, I realized I wanted to use my skills for good and not making people buy things that they didn't need.
See, you are a superhero.
Well, it's sort of that awareness you come to. I saw how media was shaping my kids and how I had to intervene all the time. And I thought, there has to be some system for this. And so I wrote a book at the time. Just being a writer is the natural thing to do. Kids Under Fire, to just help parents to get a methodology that was simple, usable for sort of daily media conflicts, screen time conflicts that they would have with their kids. And I began giving workshops, and then I decided to go back to school when my kids started in college. So we were four of us in school at the same time at one point, because I wanted to understand child development. How was it really? I knew in my gut how I thought it was affecting my kids, but how is it really impacting how they grow? And then I wanted to get a degree in parenting education. So I'm a certified parent educator, because I knew that I didn't like some of the messages coming at me that made me feel guilty, that made me feel shame, and made me feel like I had to sort of compete with my neighbors or my friends about what we did around screen time. And so I wanted to take a really different approach and understand, how do we educate parents without shaming them, making them feel guilty. And then I came to work at what was then Campaign for Commercial-Free Childhood in 2016. And Josh Golan, our executive director, said, I think we need to start a national network. And kind of the rest is history. We'll talk a little bit about the network later, but now I'm just honored to be the director of the Children's Screen Time Action Network, where the professionals and the parents can come to the table together, and parents can have access to the professionals to give them really all that they need, and keep it simple.
It is such an amazing resource. I feel that way even in this kind of realm of screen education and as a parent as well. It totally makes sense to me that was the path that you took, because I feel like a lot of things that maybe as like moms, we kind of know in our gut. I feel like the conversations that we have had at the Action Network, just like it gives you the science to stand on why you feel that way. I mean, it's very validating. I can't thank you enough for the work that you do there.
Thanks, Hillary. And you too. I mean, with healthy screen habits and the way you present with brain development, that's so critical. That's the
Thank
foundation
you.
of everything. And so, we really appreciate having you as well.
Thank you. Okay, so you mentioned this book and you kind of glossed over it, but I think it is genius. So I kind of want to spend a little bit more time on it if you're okay with that.
Sure.
And so the book is called Kids Under Fire. But then the subtitle is Seven Simple Steps to Combat the Media Attack on Your Child. So would you be, you don't have to share all seven. You don't have to like show us the whole entree, but I'm wondering if you could give us just a little appetizer. And also, by the way, I will link the book in the show notes to this episode so people can buy the whole entree if they're interested.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Hillary, for asking more about the book. It was published in 2010. So there are things about it that, I wrote it so that it would be timeless, but we don't address, babies holding cell phones, for instance. We don't address iPad use because it wasn't as prominent at that time. But we did offer a methodology that would be simple that parents could use. And it's funny, there's a funny little story about the title, which is that I wanted to be called How to Have a Tranquil Home. And my editor said, "Oh, well, that won't sell. You need to make it really drastic for parents. You need them to understand." So, but really, the outcome that we want is we want to be able to connect with our children authentically. We want to be able to have a home where we're not feeling that our parenting is being invaded by corporate tech. And so that was sort of the foundation of the book. And just like you would detox your kids from junk food, for example, maybe after you've been doing too much of it, the philosophy is the earlier you start, the better, and that kids can understand very, very basic media literacy at a very young age. And so, really, the key and sort of the pivotal offering of the book is called the Kids Media Diet Litmus Test. Just four simple questions that you put on your fridge. The first one is it stupid? And I'll just,
I like how you use kid language. So it's like,
yes,
it's very
yeah, yeah. So
relatable.
I will explain. I'll just say the four questions are: is it stupid? Is it violent? Does it add value to our lives? And would we invite these people to dinner? And I'll just explain. Stupid is kind of a ridiculous word to use, but it helps us understand, is whatever the content my kids are watching or playing dumbing down what they could be understanding at this age in their life? Is it teaching them to be rude? Is it plotless? Is it commercialized content? These are like empty calories. These are like those empty calories that you don't want them to be consuming because it's going to affect their health adversely. So then, their personalities, their habits will be shaped by it. Is it violent? It really stands by itself. Kids can be traumatized by violent media when they don't live in a home with trauma. Does it add value to our lives? There's plenty of great screen time that adds value. Discovery Channel, PBS Kids, classic films, Olympics that we just experienced over the summer. So it's always good to just say, is this adding value? It's kind of a easy question. And then we added this last question: would we invite these people to dinner? Because it's something the kids can understand also. And we're not talking about, the occasional bad guy or the villain. We're talking about, in general, are the characters here people that I want my kids to mimic? Because we know a big part of child development is mimicking.
Sure.
And they want to copy and they want to be like the characters that they admire. So you want to make sure that those characters are of value to them. And the book talks a little bit about fear. It talks about marketing, which is a huge issue, marketing to children, and how it's really baked into everything they do online now.
Yes. And I want to circle back to where you talked about does it add value? Do you have any resources that you recommend for any parents who might want to have a reference where they can say, like, oh, we want to have a family movie night, say Friday night? Do you have any place where you recommend where there might be lists of movies or anything along those lines?
Television and Media Council have good reviews, and we have some other resources in our resource library at the Children's Screen Time Action Network. And that URL just for parents is screentimenetwork.org. I'm sure you're going to share that.
Oh, 100%. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. So,
Great.
when we come back, I'd like to hear more about what we as parents can be doing to promote this concept of digital wellness.
Are you looking to get your child a phone but don't know where to start? Good news. Healthy Screen Habits has done the legwork for you, and our answer is Gab Wireless. Gab Wireless created the phone that parents have all been asking for. It can text but doesn't receive or send pictures. It looks like a smartphone with a touchscreen, has talk, text, calculator, calendar, FM radio, and alarm functions, but no internet. Setup is super easy. Plug it in and start charging. Activation is free, shipping is free, and the best news is that Gab Wireless phones start at under $100. Now, even more good news. You can get $5 off your order of a Gab Wireless phone by using the promo code HS Habits. That's HS Habits, like healthy screen habits, but short. You can find a link to Gab Wireless under the Tools tab on our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org. Press and hold the tab menu and look under Products We Endorse in the drop-down menu.
Jean Rogers is a parenting expert and host of a popular webinar series called Action Network Live, where she interviews many experts on topics related to kids' technology. Jean, you've shared your belief that digital wellness in childhood translates to a healthy, responsible, successful adulthood. So this sounds fantastic. I'd say the goal of every parent is to raise a healthy, responsible, and successful adult by whatever that definition of success is in their life. Can you talk about what digital wellness in childhood looks like today?
Yes, I'd love to. So, a rule of thumb I tell parents of young children is the younger the child, the lower the screen time. You'll see all kinds of different information about how many hours are right and how many hours for what age are right. American Academy of Pediatrics says no screens under 18 months except for video chatting with relatives. And they've done studies that show that video chatting with relatives is different, that kids actually understand, even babies understand the difference between grandpa and a character like, say, Mr. Rogers or someone, that they understand that that's somebody who is connected with them in some way. So that would be under the category of, fine screen time. Connecting with relatives and connecting with parents who are on business trips or in the military. Very good. But very, very little for young children because they experience the world through their senses, and that's how they learn. They also learn language by you talking to them, not by a screen. And we're very deceived by, we're being duped by big tech marketing that says you need ABC Mouse, you need, all these kinds of things to teach your kids, when what they need is just for you to talk to them.
And
They need
that
you to respond.
and the eye contact and the whole method of communication, not just sound production of language.
Absolutely. We were in the park the other day on the holiday and just heard this dad mimicking the sounds of his child. This not the child just going and the father would go right back and that's what they need. They need that affirmation. They need that to feel safe. They need that to feel as though somebody is there listening to me. It's really important. But as kids get older, it's important to let them have some, I think. I mean, I've kind of come a long way on that. There are parents that choose not to, and that's fantastic too, not to have any screens. But we all know that there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of wonderful things about it too. So, gradually adding it as the kids get older, talking to them about it and understanding what they're exposed to, what they're watching, using those parental controls is going to be really important. And what's even more important than the parental controls is the conversations about it. It's a part of their world. So just like you talk to them about their friends and want to understand what kind of friends they have and who they're hanging out with, you want to know who they're hanging out with online as well. So having those conversations is really important. And then when they get to be teens, this is where it gets kind of hairy, isn't it? So what I recommend is making sure that there are other adults in their lives that share your screen time values. So teens are getting to that point where developmentally they want to detach from you, they want to be independent, and they don't want to talk to you about what they're doing online. It's personal, it's private. But if they have a trusted coach, a faith leader, perhaps youth group leader, maybe a aunt or uncle, a neighbor that they really like, just have a chat with that other adult about these are our screen values and could you reinforce those when you're talking to my son or daughter. So
So they're hearing the same message just from
yeah,
a different, avenue or different voice. And
yeah, I call it
sometimes,
kind of padding their world. Like you can start thinking about it when they're in their early teens, and then that way those people are influencing when you're no longer cool.
you're very cool, Jean. You will never not be cool. Okay.
I don't know, ask my kids.
Well, I'm biased. Just to go back to what you were talking about, kind of that second step was you referenced who they're hanging out with online. When you say that, I think you're probably referring to like characters on a show. You're not actually talking about kids being online and communicating with other people. Or am I wrong in
I
understanding
think
that?
it's yeah, thank you. That's a really good question, Hillary. I think what I mean is both, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's so if you look at the first one, what kind of characters, that's probably more um that more describes what younger children are doing online, is watching YouTube videos or doing games with their favorite characters. We want to be careful that those games aren't manipulating them too. So it's important to understand a little bit more about that. We have a lot of information about that at the Action Network, which is what we call it for short. And but as they get older, they're doing less of that kind of screen content and more of connecting with people online. And we want to avoid or help them to avoid anything that could be construed as cyberbullying, any kind of social pressure that they might feel to look a certain way, to act a certain way, to be thin enough, to be look a certain way. I think,
Okay.
those kinds of things are what we're watching for as they get older.
We're looking at kind of micro level. We're looking at individual families and personal relationships with tech. I kind of would like to like bring us out a bit and get more of a 50,000-foot view at this macro level of this concept of a healthy media environment. And I'm kind of, do you have like any suggestions about what needs to happen to support these movements that people are, I feel like even in the time that I have been working with healthy screen habits, parents are much more informed about the effects of technology on a young child's brain. And we all know that world change starts within the home. And I feel like a lot of people I know are wanting to know, what can I do more? Wondering if you have any tips for that.
I do. That ball is rolling and it keeps rolling very
Which is
quickly.
exciting. It's
Yes.
exciting and relieving, to be honest.
Yeah. So I have a lot of hope to share today this is why we started the Children's Screen Time Action Network, because we found that individuals were asking us, for example, parents were saying, we need to raise our kids with other families who feel the same way, so that we don't feel like we're the bad guys or we're the heavy here. And how can we find other parents that are thinking similarly to us? We also found that there were many initiatives starting on their own, like Wait Until 8. Every school is one of our great partners, Healthy Screen Habits, and several and many others. But that they needed a home, they needed a place to come together where we weren't all recreating the wheel, and where parents could plug into projects that we're doing and support improving the lives of children and families going forward with their own families, their grandchildren, their children's families, and families of kids they know. If you're a teacher, you want healthy students. If you're a doctor, you want healthy patients. So we have the experts and the families together at the Action Network. We welcome anyone to join. We're 1,600 plus members globally now. And the benefits are we come together and amplify each other's work. And we work together on projects that are that we couldn't do alone, let's say. So our Screens in Schools work group, we have many work groups, several work groups in the Action Network. And our Screens in Schools group created an action kit. So if you're a parent and you're worried about how much screen time your kids are having at school, you might want to speak to your administration, but you might feel timid about it. You might not have all the research at your fingertips, and you also might not have the language to be able to stand up for your positions about it or understand it completely. And the Action Kit has templates you can use, template letters, language to use with your PTA, with your district, and really empowering. So that's just an example of one project that was done when people joined together here at the Action Network. So everyone can start by just checking out the website at screentimenetwork.org and just sharing that information with neighbors and other families that you want to share your concerns with.
Right. I love that. It's the power of combined work really kind of raises the level of all the people you can reach. So going back to more of a family personal use type screen look at things. There was a survey released by the Pew Research Center in July of 2020 that said 84% of parents are deeply concerned about the increase in their children's screen time. So this clearly includes the surge in screen use with the pandemic. And 2/3 of these parents believe that parenting is harder today than it was 20 years ago. Now, I have grandparents that follow the podcast and they're probably thinking, oh, yeah, you think everything's harder. But, but the difference being that the parents cited technology specifically as the reason why it's harder. So I feel like you're such an expert in this field. I'm going to ask you this huge question and ask you for a short answer. And it's not fair to do to you. I'm sorry. But what do you wish that parents knew about screen use in children? That's a really big question.
It's a great question. And of course, I have a long answer, but the short answer is two things, Hillary, that I wish all parents knew. The first is it's not your fault and it's not the kid's fault. It's the business model that is exploiting our attention and our kids' attention for profit. And so it's really important. That's a big topic as well. I recommend everybody watch the film The Social Dilemma. It's not easy to see, but it's really important for raising children in the digital age. But it explains how these systems work against us. It's really not a fair playing field. And for parents to think it's all about managing it in the home is really not fair. It's important for you to understand that there are forces working against you, but there are also groups like ours who are working to change that. And in our other work groups, there's legislation beginning. There are people going up against the corporations. So we're doing something about it, but it's important for you to understand that it's not the child choosing. The child is being manipulated.
Right. That persuasive design.
Exactly.
Like you said, just manipulates. So coming from that place of connection and compassion, I think can go a long way. I love that you brought up the movie Social Dilemma. It's one of those things that can be a really good talking point with older kids too, to talk about, oh, let's watch this. How did you feel about it? So Thank you for the
Exactly.
recommendation.
So the second thing, Hillary, is for parents to understand that they can't get time back, that so much time is being taken from their child's youth, from their child's childhood. So the other day I saw a boy in the grocery store. He was in the cart. He couldn't have been even 3 years old yet, holding a cell phone in the middle of the produce section. So you know what's in the produce section,
So
all of
many
these
colors
colors.
and teachable moments. And yes.
Yes. And I think if parents just knew kids can be quiet, that they'll build that muscle, they can handle it. We don't need to hand them the cell phone as a pacifier because we're actually debilitating them by doing that. We're not allowing them to build those skills. And this boy, his eyes were flickering. He almost seemed really nervous. And it seemed like he was in a bubble and he wasn't seeing all those interesting things. And all we have to do is point to it, talk to them about it. And so, if your child is younger, it's really important to understand we can get that time back. If your child is older, we can absolutely do things to reverse the harmful effects. Because a lot of us say, oh, I wish I had known that when my kids were younger. But it's just really important to try to avoid those developmental delays.
And in the produce section, I mean, counting colors, how to select fresh produce. I mean, those are all life skills that just when you find something that has that natural environment for teaching, grab it with both hands because Peppa Pig shopping in the grocery store and filling the cart by moving your finger does not do the same thing.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Jean for her healthy screen habit. Do you know what's happening during your child's online exchanges? As well intentioned as we are, often reading every text message, post, and email is just not realistic. This is where Bark comes in to help. Founded in 2015, Bark Technologies provides a parental control app that monitors and alerts parents to online threats. Bark was created for parents by parents to offer a better, easier, and more effective way to keep children safe online. Bark monitors posts and messagings for things like signs of bullying and communication with dangerous strangers. Bark's algorithms analyze all activity and issue parents notifications via their chosen communication method. Gain peace of mind and get 10% off of Bark service for life by using the Healthy Screen Habits link. Go to our website at healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the Tools button in the drop-down menu, and look for products we endorse to find Bark. It will be the easiest click you make all day. Peace of mind is just a bark away. My guest is Jean Rogers, director of the Children's Screen Time Action Network, which is the leading global coalition of practitioners, educators, advocates, and parents who work to reduce excessive technology use harming children, adolescents, and families. One of the things that I love about being involved in the Action Network is the practical solutions that get shared by members within work groups or bigger meetings. And now I'm going to ask Jean to do just that. On every episode, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit, which is a tip or takeaway that our listeners can put into place in their own home. So, Jean, do you have one?
I do, Hillary. When parents ask me what's good screen time and what's bad screen time, my favorite tip to share with them is a concept I called bridging. And so that's when we use screen time to get kids off screens. And so, for instance, if a child's watching a video that teaches them how to teach your dog to roll over, then they go teach their dog to roll over. I saw one that showed kids how to whistle with a blade of grass. During the pandemic, many kids learned how to cook. My assistant, one of her kids learned how to cook and were cooking her dinners
That's
during.
fantastic.
So I know it's really wonderful. I'm wondering if they were cleaning up too. I don't know. Uh, but that, so So take a look at that kind of screen time as opposed to creating your Minecraft server or playing a video game where you're going to want to get to the next level, the next level, the next level. So those are things that are going to keep kids on, where basically, watching really interesting YouTube videos that they can then go do, watercolor painting, finger painting, anything that they can take off the screen and then try it, and then they can go back and learn a little bit more. But it's really that provides a good balance, and it makes it not like forbidden fruit, because they're learning something, and then they'll be able to take the risk of trying it themselves.
I love that concept of bridging, connecting the two worlds. I love that. Well, it's a great tip to use to both teach use of technology intentionally and share the experience with lots of dialogue and connection, like we were talking about. So thank you. I will definitely, as I said, put the link to the Children's Screen Time Action Network in the show notes, as well as a link to your book, Kids Under Fire. Is there anything else you would like to share? Any last minute words or?
Just for parents to understand, if you're listening, that you're just one person. You're not going to have to do it perfectly, but just creating awareness, listening to this podcast, creating awareness, and then bringing it back to your home and then to others if you'd like to share would be really important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and teaching us all today in your beautifully calm way that you do, Jean.
Thank you, Hillary.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.